Hello, everyone. Welcome to TravClan's webinar. A very warm welcome to each one of you to today's session. A beautiful Friday evening here in New Delhi, India, and our special guest all the way from Iceland. Let me just introduce you to Mr. Renato Grunenfelder, uh, the general manager at GJ Travels. Hello, Mr. Renato. How are you?
Hello, India, Iceland calling. It's 10:30 in the morning. It's a crispy day with 14 degrees. It's cloudy, and we still have 24 hours of daylight. So this is going to be an air-conditioned presentation for you in hot India.
Interesting, interesting. Today's presentation, it's going to be so unique for all our viewers, primarily because Iceland as a destination is such a unique offering. I personally believe while I was researching about the destination, for preparing for the webinar, there are so many interesting facts about the country. Just an interesting fact for our viewers, Iceland is considered one of the most safest countries in the world, to an extent that here the policeman does not even carry a gun. Right? It's a fact that I read, and I was truly astonished, to learn about the lovely country. And today we are going to explore in detail the beautiful and the magnificent destination of Iceland for the Indian travel trade. And for that, as I introduced, we have our loveliest panel with us, Mr. Renato. He is one of the greatest experts when it comes to Iceland as a destination, specifically for Indian travel trade. And he's going to, explain us about Iceland as a destination in detail. Mr. Renato, one question off the top for you. What exactly are we going to explore today? If you could just give us a few bullet points to look forward to, what exactly are we exploring in today's presentation?
We start with a crash course about Iceland, meaning I'm talking about accommodation, about climate, of course, about food, because that's very important for Indian travelers and agents. Then we take a tour around Iceland. I show you photos of activities and sites. And finally, we talk about the Northern Lights in Iceland, since that is one of the biggest bucket lists for modern travelers. Unfortunately, I will also have to start with the COVID situation. So we don't want to have it first on the list, but it's the first on the presentation that you know what's the situation here in Iceland.
Great, great, great. So, after viewing this presentation, I'm sure our viewers will be, much acquainted with the destination when it comes to sightseeing, when it comes to, how you can probably plan your next, vacation for your travelers, and obviously the coronavirus situation in Iceland. Without further ado, let's us just start with the presentation. Mr. Renato, I would just request you to start sharing the screen and let us begin with today's presentation. Thank you.
So hopefully this works. Can you see your screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Perfect. So my name is Renato. You can also call me the Iceman if that makes it any easier. I am the general manager of GJ Travel, and GJ Travel stands for Guðmundur Jónasson Travel, which is the founder of the company, who started in 1931. So basically, if we survive COVID until January, we will have the 90th birthday of our company. We are a coach tour operator. We have our own fleet of buses, and we specialize in customized groups. Now we start with the unpleasant theme, which is called COVID. And just the latest information from this morning is that we have roughly 1,870 cases in Iceland, but right now are 39 people in quarantine and 1 person hospitalized, and that is since yesterday. We had no one in the hospital since beginning of May. Unfortunately, yesterday we had the first case back in the hospital, a total of 10 deaths in our country. Probably comparing to the rest of the world, we have it extremely well in Iceland. One of the reasons why everything goes pretty well here is we have extensive testing, a good healthcare system. When it gets to tourism, we opened our border on the 15th of June for Schengen and European Union countries. There are 6 nations who do not have to do any testing. All other nations who come in have the choice of either doing a COVID test at the airport. They should get a response within 5 hours. If they're negative, they can enjoy our country or enjoy our country. Otherwise, of course, they will have to go to quarantine. And if anyone doesn't want to do the testing, they will automatically go 14 days into quarantine. And everybody will have to download a COVID tracing app, so easier to find who had contact with whom. Iceland in general is a low-risk area, one of the safest places on the planet. If you compare to India, we definitely have no crowds in our country, a lot of wide open spaces, really a lot of space for everyone. Reasons why people will probably choose Iceland as a future destination is simply to reconnect with nature, experiencing fresh air, pure water, and the deep quiet that we have in our country. It's a very high hygiene standard. It's very clean, and it's really, again, it's super, super safe. One thing that you have also to take into consideration, everything is rather small in Iceland, meaning we only have small hotels, small attractions, small restaurants. So it's actually harder to get 500 people together in one location than actually doing the social distancing or just being in a small group. So it's easy to be alone in Iceland compared to finding a lot of people at one spot. And probably the way how Iceland handled the pandemic until today is very, let's say, gives a lot of confidence on the market. And so people start traveling to our country. And at the moment, we have the system of like the regulations become recommendations. We don't have to be very strict, again, because we are a very small population on a rather big land. But now let's start with giving you the Iceland crash course. You should see a map. And on the map, you see a red island. That is Iceland, located between Europe and North America. The way how to get from India to Iceland is either 2 flights, meaning you fly directly from India to Europe, and then from Europe, you take another flight to Iceland. So you could take airlines like British Airways via London, Finnair via Helsinki, Lufthansa via Germany, to do it with the same airlines on 2 flights. But if you choose the routing via Middle East or Turkey, so if you use Qatar, Emirates, or Turkish Airlines, it will always be 3 flights. So 2 flights with those airlines to Europe and another flight from Europe to Iceland. There is no direct flight from anywhere in Asia to Iceland. So you always need to get first to Europe and then to Iceland. To give you some ideas of the distancing, London will be 2.5 hours flight. Mainland Europe is generally 3 hours. And for example, Helsinki in Scandinavia would be 3.5 hours flight. So even though if you combine Iceland with Scandinavia, you still will have to take a flight. So Iceland is an island, so you will have to fly from Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. One problem we have with Iceland is our name. Iceland is called Iceland, and people probably expect a lot of ice and an ice-cold climate. But actually, our neighbor called Greenland should be Iceland. If you look at the map, Greenland is not very green. Greenland is 80% ice. So Greenland should be Iceland, while Iceland only has 11% ice. So Iceland should be Greenland. But here we go, we are called Iceland, and I will have to explain you afterwards that it's not really ice cold in our country. How big is Iceland? Iceland is the same size as the Indian state of Bihar. Bihar has like 100 million inhabitants, as far as I know. We're also the same size as South Korea, which has 50 million inhabitants. But Iceland only has 360,000 people. So we are a very small population, or maybe on a rather big land for those few people. 65% of that population lives in the capital city of Reykjavik, and 4/5 of the country is not even populated and cannot be populated. So most people live along the coast, and 65% of them live in the capital city of Reykjavik. How long does it take to see Iceland? You should see a map, and there's a yellow line going around the country. That is our main road. We call it the Ring Road, or Road number 1. That road is 1,400 kilometers long. And so if you want to drive around Iceland, and that road number 1 is connecting villages and towns along the coast, it will take you 8 days or longer. Because if you do some detours along that road, you probably end up driving 2,000 kilometers. That means it's 8 days or longer. Just that you have an idea that how long you need if you want to see a lot of Iceland. So if you want to see a lot in the shortest possible time, it's probably going to be 8 days or longer around Iceland. Especially if you use Iceland as a mono destination, probably a round trip is the right choice. But of course, if you combine Iceland with other European destinations and then have reduced budget for Iceland or reduced time, you probably might stay only 2, 3, 4 nights in Iceland. And that's probably you're going to stay in Reykjavik, the capital city. So on the map you see now, you have a red dot, and the red dot is Reykjavik, so the capital city, and the yellow dot is the international airport called Keflavik. Keflavik is 45 minutes drive from Reykjavik. So if you come for a short time to Iceland, again, because if you have limited time or limited budget, or for example, you have a MICE or an incentive group that really wants like city life and a good hotel and dine around, probably you're going to stay all the nights in Reykjavik. And what you can do from the capital city is whatever is within the blue circle on the map. So you can only travel within that blue circle. The rest is just too far away for a day excursion. So one day you could go south, one day you could go more in the middle, one day you could go west, you could go to Blue Lagoon. So whatever is in the blue circle, that is ideal for traveling as a day excursion or day tour out of Reykjavik. Even so, you travel only within that blue circle. You still see everything that Iceland is famous for. So you're going to see glaciers, you're going to see volcanoes, hot springs, lava fields, geysers, you're going to see fjords, you're going to see waterfalls, you can visit the Blue Lagoon, you can go whale watching, puffin watching, you can see aurora, the northern lights. So all is there within the blue circle. But if you want to see more of Iceland, then you will have to move away as an overnight location from Reykjavik and travel on the main road to go to different other destinations. So you can see a small part of Iceland all out of Reykjavik. The rest you will have to do a round trip, and that demands 8 days or longer. What is the right season or the best season to visit? We basically have two main seasons in Iceland. One is summer, which we have right now. We consider summer June to August. That is the time when we have up to 24 hours of daylight. And we actually have 2 months in the summer when we have zero darkness. I repeat, zero darkness, 2 months during the summer. So definitely in the summertime, you cannot see the aurora because you need darkness to see aurora. So in the summer, we have instead the midnight sun, when the sun goes down at midnight. And the summertime is the best time when you like outdoor activities. So if you like hiking, biking, river rafting, whale watching, camping and fishing and all these kind of things, definitely this is going to be in the summertime. The reason why people visit in the winter are the northern lights or the aurora, which only can be seen from mid-September to mid-April, but I will tell you much more about aurora later on. So how hot and cold does it get in Iceland? I know when you come from India, Iceland is always going to be cold. But when you live maybe in Delhi or northern part of India, it's probably not as bad, especially in the winter time. So summer, it does never really get hot. So it's a mild summer, anywhere from 12 to 18 degrees, average temperature. So let's say it's an air-conditioned climate. And on the 21st of June, the sun does not go down. So basically from 20th of May to 20th of July, we have no darkness when we have the midnight sun. The big surprise will be winter. The average temperature in the winter time is 0 degrees. That is actually similar to New York or London. It is warmer than Central or Eastern Europe, or definitely much warmer than Scandinavia. So Iceland is never really freezing cold, but Iceland is also never really hot. The shortest daylight we have on the 21st of December with about 5 hours of daylight. So the simple question, what is the best time to visit Iceland? I would always say the 21st of June, because imagine the energy you're going to have when the sun does not go down, when you have 24 hours of daylight. But if you come the 21st of December, I would say that's the worst time to visit Iceland, because you're probably going to be very sleepy, maybe even depressed when you only have 5 hours of daylight. Now, this is probably how summer will look like. So it's going to be green, it has flowers, the ocean is blue, you have the midnight sun, and definitely you can eat ice cream in Iceland. This is probably how winter is going to look like. So the northern lights dancing in the sky at night, and maybe there is some snow. And I repeat, maybe there is some snow, because Iceland is called Iceland. So we have 11% of the country ice in form of glaciers, so we can always guarantee ice because we are Iceland with the glaciers, and you can see them in the winter as in the summertime, so they don't melt in summertime. But we are not called snowland, so we cannot really guarantee snow. And the reason for this is that with the average temperature of 0 degrees in the wintertime, we are actually not cold enough to guarantee snow. There might be definitely in higher elevation, but along the coast where people live, there's actually very little snow. You might have a snowstorm one day and play golf the next day. So don't have in your program skiing, dog sledging, snowshoe walking, because simply we cannot guarantee snow in Iceland, which might be a big surprise for a country that has such a cold name. Now, what is the reason to visit Iceland? And I would like to say, this is about the similar or same reason as going to New Zealand, Canada, or Alaska. If you know how to sell New Zealand, you will automatically know how to sell Iceland. The reason to visit Iceland is really nature, scenery, and landscape. And it's such a unique scenery and landscape and nature that compared to the rest of the world. We have nothing in common with Scandinavia or Europe or North America. We are a volcanic land with almost no vegetation. We probably look more like the moon than like any other country on Earth. So it's all about nature. If anyone doesn't like nature, probably you shouldn't come to Iceland then. Then it's outdoor activities. You might remember I told you 4/5 of the country cannot be populated. So it's it's a huge wilderness that we have in Iceland. In order to experiencing it, you have to be active. And so we have all these adventure travel and outdoor activities. And yes, then we have the 360,000 people, which we can call it's a Viking culture. So what do I mean with nature? First of all, it's a volcanic land. So we have about 150 active volcanoes. We have hot springs and geysers, lava fields, and black beaches. But then we also have waterfalls. We probably call the country of waterfalls. There's probably around 10,000 waterfalls in our country. And when you look at itineraries, every day you will have a waterfall on an itinerary on your program. And if people ask, why do I need to see so many waterfalls? Just ask yourself, what would you show me in India? Probably a lot of temples. Like you have a lot of temples in India. Rome has a lot of churches. The same goes for Spain. Iceland has a lot of waterfalls instead. So Iceland cannot show you churches, monuments, and temples, but it can show you nature, especially the waterfalls. And every single waterfall is uniquely different and beautiful, like your temples or like the churches in Italy and Spain. Then we have glaciers and fjords and mountains. We have a desert landscape. It's not like the Sahara, yellow sand. It's a black stone and ash desert because of the volcanoes. We have the northern lights in the winter and the midnight sun in the summertime. Then activities. Iceland is an adventure travel country. Again, very similar to New Zealand, Canada, and Alaska. What kind of activities do we have? First of all, the glaciers. 11% of the country is ice, so we do the glacier hiking, snowmobile. So we do actually the snowmobile on the glaciers on ice. We don't wait for snow to come. So we can do the snowmobile all year, even in the summer, because we use the glaciers for the snowmobile tours. We have ice caves. We can do boat trips between floating icebergs. Then we have the volcanoes giving us the hot springs, so we can go bathing in a geothermal spring. We have 100,000 horses in Iceland, so the horses can get to places where the cars no longer can go. Horseback riding is super popular in Iceland. It's like one of the big free time things we do. Then you can go whale watching and bird watching and many other things. Now, Indian travelers very little ask for really adventure travel. They rather want the soft adventure, the physically not very demanding activities, especially if you have older travelers who are not used to be very fit. So there's a lot of activities who are physically not demanding. It is easy to go bathing in a hot spring. Everybody can go on a bird watching or whale watching cruise, a boat trip in the fjord, a boat trip between floating icebergs. Everybody can do that. Even actually a glacier hike is very easy, or going into an ice cave. So, and then if you have incentive groups or mice groups, maybe you want to take them playing golf at midnight. Yeah, you can play golf almost everywhere, but where can you play golf at midnight with the midnight sun? So there are really good adventure travel, but also a lot of soft adventures which are physically not demanding. If you have mice groups, for example, then you would like to go into a volcano. So for the high-end travelers, the people who have been everywhere, done everything, and still need a wow experience, we're the only place in the world where you can actually go into a volcano. I don't speak about a volcano crater. I really mean into the volcano, which you do with a basket that you see on the picture, but you get lowered down into the mountain. It's a dormant volcano, so it will not erupt, so you don't have to panic. It costs you only €340 for 30 minutes inside the volcano. But yeah, if you have done everything, seen everything, maybe this is the one experience you still are waiting for. Much cheaper will be going to a museum to see liquid lava. So we have one museum which can melt lava rocks and make liquid lava again. Then you can go into ice caves. This is a man-made ice cave. It's actually the longest man-made ice tunnel in the world. It's open all year long. And again, it's very easy. You get driven with a monster truck in front of this ice cave, and you just walk into the ice cave. And you are dressed the same way as you are dressed outside. Outside, usually it's windy. Inside the ice cave, it's maybe a little bit colder, but it is not going to be windy. Then we have natural ice caves, which you can only visit in the winter time when they're solid frozen. This is really an Instagram location. The photographers want to go there, so you can visit from November to March when these natural ice caves are solid frozen. So we call them the blue ice caves or the crystal ice caves, and you might have seen that on different Instagram pictures. Then, of course, we go geothermally bathing. Because in India, you would go to swim to cool down. But in Iceland, we go to bathe to warm up, because in Iceland, the water is always warmer than the air. And this everybody can do. So you have the Blue Lagoon as one of those most famous hot springs to bathe. But then, of course, every little village has their own geothermal swimming pools, and they are generally always outdoors. When we get to culture, probably it's going to be our farms, our horses, our greenhouses. But for younger travelers, it might be Game of Thrones, so different Hollywood and Bollywood film locations. For Indian travelers, they probably want to travel on the footsteps of Shah Rukh Khan to see where the music trailer Gerua was filmed. And that is basically just left or right of the main road. And I'll show you some photos afterwards. Now let's talk about hotels, very important in the travel industry. Here the first line says that the 4-star is the highest rating in Iceland and limited to Reykjavik. This is not really correct because we have one 5-star hotel, which I talk afterwards. So 4-star is really the main rating when it's for people who want a good hotel. Most of those hotels are in Reykjavik. Anyway, when you sell an Iceland trip, don't focus just on the hotels, because you're not selling Iceland because of a hotel. You sell Iceland because of the country, because of the scenery, the landscape, the nature, the outdoor activities. So it's all about the journey and not the hotel. So probably when you do a round trip around Iceland, you stay every single night in a different hotel. So all you need when you check in at 6 o'clock is a clean room, a comfortable bed, a National Geographic view out of your window. You want a hot shower, good dinner, good breakfast, and on you go, probably next morning early, on your journey to the next overnight location. And all what really matters is what you see and what you do on your journey, and don't have the hotel as the main reason of traveling to Iceland. Anyway, we don't have a lot of hotels. The hotels are usually small, so it's all about the location. Before COVID, yes, hotel availability was always an issue. Now after COVID, we will see how busy everybody is going to become. So we do have one 5-star hotel. It's called the Blue Lagoon Retreat Hotel. It costs roughly €1,400 per room per night. Yes, porterage is included, as well the breakfast. But for most people, let's be honest, they don't have such a budget of €1,400 a room a night. So probably again, 4-star is the best choice then. As you can see on the map, the hotel is located at the very edge of Iceland near to the airport. So it's actually not very practical to stay multiple nights in this hotel and explore the country, except of course you take a helicopter. So probably it's the hotel for the first or last night of the tour, because you're near to the airport. Meals. I know that this is the main subject for Indian travelers. When we talk about food, of course, Iceland as an island in the North Atlantic Ocean is fish and seafood heaven. It's probably going to be one of the best places anywhere in the world to eat fish and seafood. We do have the double amount of sheep than people. So lamb is going to be our main meat that we eat in Iceland. And most Indian travelers will ask for vegetarian meals and always wonder, can you get vegetarian meals? And I just have to tell you, Indian people are not the only vegetarians in the world. Yeah, you are a big nation with a lot of vegetarians, but Iceland is a small nation with maybe a small number of vegetarians. Nevertheless, we also have vegetarian and vegan people in Iceland, so they need food. So you can get vegetarian and vegan food in Iceland. Just keep in mind, we have an Arctic climate. We do not grow fruits and vegetables in our gardens, so we have to import it. It's expensive, and the selection or choices are not as big as you have in India, but it is available. Now, when we get to Indian food, I also have to tell you the selection is not very big. We only have 3 Indian restaurants, at least until today. With all the COVID things, we never know who actually survives. So right now we have 3 Indian restaurants. They're all located in Reykjavik, the capital city. So if you want to do a round trip of Iceland, you cannot eat every single night Indian food because it's only available in Reykjavik. So if Indian food is really, really important, you will have to create a program that is staying all the nights in Reykjavik in order to go to an Indian restaurant, or you can have vegetarian food for lunch or dinner in different other locations. Sometimes I get asked about chef groups. Our company doesn't deal with chef groups, and it has been difficult to deal with chef groups in Iceland before COVID. And I imagine it's going to be even much more difficult to get a foreign chef into a hotel property after COVID. So vegetarian food is available, but main food in Iceland is fish, seafood, and lamb. Shopping, I would not say Iceland is a shopping paradise. It's more for the souvenirs, so it's lava rock jewelry, nice books and calendars. It's woolen articles, which you're probably not going to need in Mumbai, but if you live in northern India in the winter, you could use that. We have a lot of outdoor clothing, and the Blue Lagoon has their own beauty products. Now, talking about all these things, what Iceland is for, let me also quickly go over the list what Iceland is not good for. So if you, as you can imagine, Iceland is for well-traveled people who have been everywhere, seen everything, done everything. And I will ask you, show me a new place. And probably for most Indian people, Iceland is still a new place. Now, well-traveled people probably have a lot more money than those who not travel a lot and have a lot of high expectations. So it's important to explain that a country with 360,000 inhabitants is not an entertainment paradise. So we don't offer the Mickey Mouse entertainment. We don't have great shopping. We don't really have this list of luxury hotels. We don't have this endless nightlife. But if your clients look for a different kind of Iceland and look at luxury not as material luxury, but rather like peace, quiet, I mean deep quiet, fresh air, pure water, no crowds, no pollution, no traffic jam, no crime. This is the Icelandic luxury of life. So hopefully that is appealing. Quickly about our company, we started in 1931. So Guðmundur Jónasson is the founder of the company, and we call it today TravClan's Travel. We have our own fleet of vehicles, anywhere from 4-seater to 69, so we can do private tours for 2-4 people, but of course also handle large groups. All buses are Mercedes-Benz, they're 4 years or younger, and we offer free Wi-Fi on all our vehicles. We are really a specialist for customized private groups. So we can do private for 2, private for 30, private for 150, whatever group size you have. Just keep in mind, Iceland is expensive. So I would say a group size 15 people and higher, that makes Iceland affordable. But if you want to do it private for 2 or private for 4, keep in mind it is going to be very expensive. So it would not be unusual to have a daily price of 1,000 euro per person net for a private tour of 2 people. I repeat, 1,000 euro per person per day, a private tour of 2 people. If that is not in the budget, let's just not talk about private FIT. Instead, we could then offer seating coach or fixed departure tours. So we really focus on groups, and basically customizing means the more clear you are to us what you need and what you don't want, the better we can actually customize groups. If you do not materialize your own groups, or you simply have only a couple of individual travelers, instead of maybe offering this very expensive private tours of 2 or 4, we can actually have a good selection of fixed departure tours from 4 to 15 days. So it's on a seat-in coach basis. Now let's go to the next chapter. I will travel with you around Iceland on road number 1. We call it the Ring Road, and show you what you can see and do around Iceland. It always starts in Reykjavik, the capital city, which has 65% of our national population. And whenever we talk about nightlife and shopping and culture, that automatically will be Reykjavik, because all other places are really, really small. Nevertheless, you can actually see the midnight sun from Reykjavik. You can go puffin watching and whale watching in Reykjavik. And maybe only 15 minutes out of the capital city, you can get into nature where you truly believe you're the first person ever at that spot, where you see nobody around you. So Reykjavik is the beginning and the end of any round trip, because it's located near to the international airport, and it's the biggest city in Iceland. Reykjavik is located on a peninsula, surrounded on 3 sides by ocean. This picture now that you see is the city center, the parliament, and the city hall. And on the following pictures, you will always have a small Iceland map on the corner, and on the map should be a green ring, and the green ring shows you the location where the photo was taken. And mostly it's exactly located on the main road, on the road number 1, which goes around the country. So there's not a lot of detours to do. This is a view over the city center. So you see it's a colorful city with basically no high-rise buildings or no big buildings at all. As I explained in the beginning, everything is small in Iceland. We don't have big buildings, big hotels, big attractions. At the harbor, you can see the midnight sun, for example. Midnight sun is basically from beginning of June to mid-end of July. Now we travel north, so we actually go first west. And we see one of many fjords. A fjord is when the ocean goes inland, surrounded by steep mountains. Here we drive through a volcanic field or a lava field with volcano craters, also located directly on the main road. So we can stop here and climb up that volcano crater, which is basically 20 minutes up and 15 minutes down. This picture I want to show you. The reason for it is that it was taken in December at noontime, and it looks very dark because there's very little daylight in December and January, and when it's cloudy, it looks like dark, or basically the day never arrived during that time. So again, you will have to make a choice of visiting Iceland in the summertime when we have up to 24 hours of daylight, but if it's in the winter, your daylight might be as little as only 5 hours. Nearby is the Kirkjufell mountain, or the Church Mountain, one of the big Instagram locations of Iceland. So all the photographers want to go there. And when you Google up Kirkjufell mountain on Instagram, you will see a lot of amazing pictures. Then we reach Ankureri, the capital city of North Iceland, and Ankureri is the second biggest city of Iceland with 17,000 people. And I repeat, 17,000 people is the second biggest city of Iceland, and the third biggest has less than 10,000. So when Indian agents ask me what cities should we visit, we actually only have one, and that is Reykjavik. Akureyri is just a very small city located in North Iceland at the longest fjord in Iceland, and it's kind of the cultural hub of the northern part. So near to Akureyri, we have Kogafos Waterfall, one of the 10,000 waterfalls in our country. This is a big one located directly at the main road, so no efforts to make to get here. Then we reach Lake Mývatn, the biggest lake of Iceland. It is a geological paradise. Any kind of volcanic craters and features are to be found at Lake Mývatn. It's also a bird watching paradise. There's like more than 50 species of ducks located at that lake. So here we have pseudo craters. And if you look at the picture on the bottom left, you see the main road and the parking lot. So you can see how little you have to walk to get to those craters. Then nearby we have an ash crater, so another kind of volcanic crater. Again, we can actually drive to the bottom of the crater, and it's only 15 minutes walk up to the rim of the crater. Then we have another crater. It's an explosion crater filled with a lake. Again, here it's about a 2 to 3 minutes walk from the vehicle to take this picture. Nearby, another area is a hot spring area with mud pools and hot springs. And you can see on the picture where the cars are parked, so how little you have to walk to get to the view terrace and just smell and see the hot springs. But we stop here anyway, 30 to 45 minutes. So easy, take your time and walk around and experience all these hot springs. So this takes me to the question how active or fit you need to be to visit Iceland. So as you can see, it's all about nature. And the parking lot to those nature spots is usually very nearby. So it's just a couple of minutes to go to these spots. But our stops are usually 30 to 45 minutes. So you have plenty of time to walk around and explore the area. I promise you that you do much more hiking in a shopping mall in India than ever on a round trip in Iceland, except of course you book a hiking tour. But yeah, you need to bring outdoor clothing and good shoes that can get wet and can get dirty because it's all about nature and outdoor activities. Nearby, and this is all around Lake Mevanten, we have a nature bath. It's a hot spring where you can go bathing, so meaning you warm yourself up. You see, people are not swimming here. They're bathing simply because the water is anywhere from 35 to 38 degrees. It's a kind of a blue lagoon of North Iceland. Not far, but off the main road is Dettifoss Waterfall, the largest waterfall of Europe. Usually only to visit in the summertime as the road might not be open in the winter. Now we reach East Iceland. So here you have a picture of a fjord and the lupin flowers in the summertime. This is an area actually where Shah Rukh Khan went to film his Gerua trailer. Now we've reached a place we can call Iceland. It's Vatnajokull Glacier. It's the biggest glacier of Europe. It's bigger than all other glaciers of Europe combined. Only Greenland and Antarctica have more ice than Vatnajokull Glacier. And it has different glacial lagoon with floating icebergs where you can do a boat trip in the summertime. In the wintertime, those lagoons freeze and you cannot do any boat trips. Just across the street of that glacial lagoon is the Diamond Beach. And what happens here is that the icebergs from the ice lagoon go through a small river into the ocean. The ocean brings the icebergs back and crumble them into small pieces on the black sands. And those small icebergs sparkle like diamonds in the sun. But don't take them to India. They have zero value, these icebergs, because they melt instantly. But again, this is one of those big Instagram locations. So for photographers do want to get here, and it takes you like 2 minutes walk from the vehicle to get to the Diamond Beach. Also the same location are the natural ice caves, which I spoke about in the beginning of the presentation. They are usually safe to enter in the winter time, so from mid-November to mid-March, because they actually get created in the summertime when the glaciers are melting, and they create tunnels and caves. And then once it gets colder again, those tunnels and caves need to get solid frozen in order to be safe to enter. Again, this is one of the big Instagram locations. Then we just continue on the main road, drive to one of those big lava fields, and this is what you can see, the wide open spaces, and you listen to wind and birds and just see nothing of modern life. So as you can imagine, social distancing is really, really easy in Iceland. This is on the main road. This is no off-road driving. The picture was taken here. Then we get to South Iceland, famous for waterfalls, glaciers, and the black beaches. In Iceland, we have most beaches are black because of the volcano sand and volcano ash. So most of those accessible beaches are in South Iceland. So here's, for example, the black beach of Vík, also a very popular location for Indian visitors. Not far from Vík is Kogafos Waterfall. It's one of the higher waterfalls in our country. Also, Shah Rukh Khan was here filming. At the same location is one of the Viking farms, and it's a Torf house and folk museum. You can see the grass roof and the Torf walls to keep the houses warmer during the Viking time. Not far is Cellular's waterfall, one of the waterfalls that you can actually walk behind. You might get wet, but anyway, it's a unique experience to be behind the waterfall. If you look well on the picture, you can see that where the cars are parked, so it's not very far to walk from the car park to the waterfall. Also here, Shah Rukh Khan was having this as part of his music trailer. So you can see already we have passed a lot of Shah Rukh Khan's film locations, and they are just really left or right of the main road. No efforts to take at all. But please don't be dressed like this Indian couple. I don't remember the lady's name. She was beautifully dressed, but it was the total wrong dress code for Iceland. So please dress warmly. Again, not far from here is one more waterfall. I don't show you 10,000 waterfalls, but at least some of the most beautiful ones. Gullfoss is probably one of the most visited waterfalls in Iceland, and it's located on the Golden Circle. The Golden Circle is the most popular day excursion from Reykjavik, also the most popular shore excursion if you come by cruise. And don't mix up the Golden Circle with the Iceland Circle. The Iceland Circle is the red road on the map, 2,000 kilometers long, while the Golden Circle is 260 kilometers long. It's an 8-hour day excursion, while the Iceland Circle is more like an 8 days tour. Why the Golden Circle is called Golden Circle is because of the waterfall Gullfoss. Gullfoss means the golden waterfall, and that gave the name of that excursion. Then again, not far from that location is Geyser. It's the erupting or spouting hot spring, similar that you have in New Zealand or in Yellowstone National Park. But this hot spring jumps up into the air about every 4 to 5 minutes. So you don't have to wait a long time until you see the hot spring spouting into the air, roughly 25 to 30 meters. Then again, not far from there is Thingvellir National Park. What's important about this location is both geology and history. Geology-wise, it is the place where the two tectonic plates drift apart. So we have the North American continental plate and the Eurasian continental plate. So you can actually go snorkeling, diving, walking between two continental plates. This is again, this is one of the major film location of Game of Thrones, together with Lake Mývatn and the Black Beaches in the south. So Game of Thrones was mainly filmed at this location in Iceland. If you look well on the picture, you see cracks in the middle of the photos, and these are where the Earth's crust is opening up. So we have the fissures in the Earth's crust. History-wise, this is the birthplace of democracy. Over 1,000 years ago, the Vikings decided to have here the Icelandic parliament and create democracy. So India would be the largest democracy, while Iceland is the oldest democracy. So we are very proud on that. Now, finally, we get to the Blue Lagoon, located near the airport. And the reason why it's called Blue Lagoon is because of the milky blue color. What's unique about the Blue Lagoon is it's salt water. It's the only saltwater hot spring in Iceland. And the combination of salt water and hot lava creates a mineral called silica. And that's the white mud the people have in their face. So the people here are not sick. They only want to get more beautiful and look younger. But don't put the silica mud into your hair. It's actually very difficult to get it out. So bathing in the Blue Lagoon is probably one of the main reasons to visit Iceland. The Blue Lagoon is roughly 70 euros plus. Before COVID, you always had to make a reservation to get to the Blue Lagoon. And after COVID, it might be a different story. Nevertheless, I suggest don't have the Blue Lagoon as an optional on your tour. Make sure you book in advance to secure space, because the Blue Lagoon is really the most popular tourist attraction in Iceland. Now, finally, we are talking about the Northern Lights, and the Northern Light is really one of the big bucket lists of today's traveler. Imagine people who have been everywhere, seen everything. They say, oh, I have seen waterfalls, I have seen volcanoes, I have seen hot springs, I have done all these activities here and there. But there are very few countries in the world that can offer Northern Lights. And Northern Lights is kind of a new thing in travel. So Northern Lights can only be seen from mid-September to mid-April. And this is kind of what you want to see. These are the countries where you can actually see Northern Lights. Certain parts of Alaska and Canada, southern Greenland, Iceland, the northern part of Scandinavia called Lapland, and the north coast of Siberia. So these are the only locations where you can see aurora or Northern Lights. So whatever lies beneath the big, thick green ring. When people ask me when exactly, where exactly, how long exactly can I see the Northern Lights, I will just ask you back an Indian question. When exactly, where exactly, and how long exactly can I see the rainbow in Mumbai or in Delhi or wherever in India? And probably you cannot answer that. And the same goes for the Northern Light. In order to see the Northern Light, you need darkness, and that's from mid-September to mid-April, because in the summer it's 24 hours of daylight. Then you need a clear sky, and that's the tricky part. In this part of the world where we have the Northern Light, is not famous for good weather. You have to expect rain, clouds, snow, and fog. So if you cannot see the stars, it means if it's not clear sky, you simply will not see the aurora. And then you need solar explosions that they create the aurora. So when you have a combination of the three elements, darkness, clear sky, and solar explosion, a realistic chance to see the Northern Light is 2 to 3 times a week. That said, is just come for 1 week and probably going to see the Northern Light 2 to 3 times. It's probably going to be there much more often than 2 or 3 times a week. But if it's there at noontime, you're not going to see it because it's not dark. And if it's there at 10 o'clock at night, when it rains or snows, again, you're not going to see it. So go 1 week to one of those Northern Light locations and probably you're going to see it. The Northern Light thing is all about maximizing the chances to see the Northern Light, meaning the longer you stay in a location where there's Northern Light and the darker place you go, the better are your chances. So if you come to Iceland just for 2 nights, don't be disappointed if you don't see the Northern Lights, but that would be the same in Finland, Canada, Alaska. So the longer you stay, the better are the chances, because it's actually the same Northern Light in all those countries. But it all depends really if the sky is clear, if there is a solar explosion, and how long you stay there and how dark it is. Because if you stay downtown Reykjavik, the capital city of Iceland, you're probably not going to see the Northern Lights because of the light pollution. So the further out in the nowhere's land you go, the better it will be. So if you ask how long does it last, it's like the question, how long does a rainbow last? You can't answer that. So Northern Light could be a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes, it could be even a couple of hours. They come and go. They change their strengths, they change their shapes, they change their colors. So they could look like this, they could look like this, or they could look like this, or many other shapes and colors. It all starts on the sun with a giant explosion, which creates a strong wind. The wind becomes energy, and the energy changes into electricity that we see in form of Northern Lights or lights at the polar location. Now, Iceland is the warmest destination to see Northern Light. And when you come from India, especially from the hot areas of India, it might make a difference if you go to Iceland and have 0 degrees to see the Northern Light, or you go to Alaska, maybe minus 40 or 50 degrees. That's a huge difference. Now, if people ask, but is it better to see the Northern Light in Alaska or in Finland or in Iceland? It's the same Northern Light, but the climate is a difference. So if you go to Finland, you probably have to expect minus 20 degrees. If you go to Iceland, probably it's going to be 0 degrees. Now, when people ask when to go and where to go to have a better guarantee, you will always have to ask your client what you want to do and what you want to see in a location with Northern Light. And that should define the location and the time to go there. So if people say, I want to sleep in an igloo hotel, that has to be Finland. If people want to do dog sledging, yes, they have to go to a place with snow and dogs. That would be, again, Finland, Sweden, Canada, Alaska, Greenland, but not Iceland. We don't guarantee snow and we don't have the dogs. So if people want winter sport and snow activities, it is going to be in a cold place which can guarantee snow. But Iceland with 0 degrees cannot guarantee the snow, so the focus of the day program in Iceland is going to be sightseeing of nature, scenery, and landscape, bathing in hot springs, going to ice caves, seeing whales and horses. So we have a total different program during the day in Iceland compared to the snow countries. And what is the time you can see the Northern Light? In Europe, it's usually before midnight, so 9 to 12, kind of a practical timing before you go to sleep. while in Canada, Alaska, in North America, it's going to be after midnight. And again, the reason to visit Iceland in the winter is nature, scenery, landscape, soft adventures, and culture. And that is during the day. While at night, you try to stay in dark location where you just need to go out of the hotel, into the garden, look up, and hopefully you see the aurora. So the last thing I want to explain is, because when it comes back to the question, all right, we like Iceland as a Northern Light destination. Renato, what is the best time you suggest to come? And my answer is very simple. Come beginning of winter or end of the winter when we have a good balance between daylight and darkness. Because what I sell you and charge you money for is the sightseeing and the activities. And they're usually from 9 in the morning to 5 or 6 in the evening. So you want daylight during that time because that's value for money. What's the point of going sightseeing when you for 10 hours when you only have 5 hours of daylight? So if you come in beginning or end of winter, you have at least 8 hours of daylight, but you also have at least 10, sorry, I have to repeat that. You have at least 8 hours of daylight for the day program, but also at least 10 hours of darkness for the northern lights. So if you can skip at least December and January, when we have anywhere from 5 to 7 hours of daylight, which might simply not be enough and good value for money for your day program. In Finland, they probably will give you another answer. They will tell you the best time to come is from December to March. And they don't mean that's the best time to see the aurora, but that's the best time for the day activities, because then the lakes are frozen and you can do the ice fishing. That's the time when they have snow and you can do all the winter sport and snow activities. The last slide is going to be especially for India. So Indians will need a Schengen visa to get to Iceland, and the Schengen visa can be, you can receive it from the Icelandic embassy in New Delhi. And our company can issue a visa letter once we receive the deposit. Important, Iceland has no igloo hotels. The international airport is called Keflavik. There's no tipping in Iceland, so you don't really need any cash money in your pocket since we don't tip in Iceland. But of course, if you're happy with the service, you can do that. Money, we have the own currency called Icelandic krona, but the main currency we use is really credit card. Icelanders pay everything in debit and credit card. We hardly ever have cash. But if you want to have cash, you can bring dollars or euros, change them in the bank or hotel, or go to the ATM and get some cash. But again, you don't tip, so you can do everything by credit and debit card. And to give you an idea how expensive Iceland is and what budget you need to have, if you sell it as a package, the flight from India to Iceland, 1 week hotel, full days of program and activities, breakfast and dinner, probably calculate with a package price of about 4,000 euro. So if your customer doesn't have 4,000 euro buying power, Iceland is probably simply the wrong destination. If you say now we combine Iceland with other places, so how much does just Iceland cost, excluding the flights? I would say in the wintertime, roughly calculate with 200 euro, hotel, breakfast, full day of touring and activities, while in the summertime, it's more like 300 euro. The reason why it's more expensive in summer than in the winter is summer is high season, but mainly is because summer has 24 hours of daylight, so the day program tend to be longer and more inclusions. While in the winter, when we have maybe only 5 hours daylight, you can simply not do that much, and therefore you don't spend that much. So I hope I managed in the right time to finish my presentation, and I'm going to stop sharing now. Oof.
Great. That was really a lovely and an interesting presentation, and I'm sure all the viewers must agree with what I am saying, because trust me, the type of information it had, it was so composite, and it actually catered to each and every questions that we have received so far. Like, I'm not even kidding. All the questions that we've received so far are almost covered when it comes to this presentation. Obviously, curiosity is something that should be there always. And so, audience, for you, if you have any more questions, please start posting your questions in the live chat, and we are starting to take up the Q&A session with Mr. Renato here. Okay, Mr. Donato, the first question coming up for you. It's obviously, something to be take care about when you're traveling to Iceland. The question is coming in from Mr. Chirag Kale, and the question is, what should you avoid in Iceland?
Oh, that's a good question. An active volcano, probably. Maybe there's nothing you really need to avoid because probably the reasons that brings you to Iceland is that's what you want to see, and there's really not a lot to avoid. But maybe things have to prepare. First of all, what you should avoid is maybe self-drive in the winter time. Many
Okay.
Indian travelers, because of many reasons, or especially cost reasons, want to do self-drive tours. And self-drive tours is amazing in Iceland. Renting a car in the summertime, you can do four-wheel driving in Iceland. So it feels like a cowboy on roads. But the winter time is a total different story. As
Okay.
you might remember, I told you average temperature is 0 degrees. So you actually never know if it's frost or defrost. You only find out once you brake your car or when you start braking. And that could be fatal. So if you have these slippery roads
Mhm.
together with strong winds, it's a very bad combination. So people
Okay.
who are not used to drive on icy, slippery roads on open spaces, probably that's the wrong thing to do. I would just say that's the main thing you should avoid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, after listening to that answer, I think that is the one thing that one should definitely try when it's the right time, but also to avoid when it's not the right time. Am I correct? Right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
after seeing the map that you just showed us in the presentation, that entire ring that we covered, it is
Yeah.
something to to be explored on your own, probably, if you are able to spend that kind of money, and if you want to use that self drive option and explore the entire country. I think that is one of the unique features that strike me the most, and I'm sure audience must have also felt the same way.
Imagine you do that circle 8 days in the summertime when you have 24 hours of daylight, you have
Right.
no stress in timing. So
Right.
if you just take more time, no problem. It's never getting dark. But when you do the same tour in the winter time with 5 hours of daylight, for the driver is stressed to keep the car on the road, and then he drives very slowly to be safe, and then he's missing out half of the attractions which
Right.
were on the itinerary.
Right. And it actually also, it might take him more time to cover the same amount of
Oh yeah,
destinations.
definitely. You will drive much, much slower. And one thing that's just important to know is Iceland is a very windy place, especially in the winter time. We have this hurricane type of winds. So we just call it windy. Other people call it hurricane.
Okay. Moving on to the next question that we have. Okay. So right. When it comes to, although you specifically mentioned in your presentation that it's quite expensive when it comes to FITs, but still, if a traveler, if a group of, if a family of like four is traveling to Iceland, what all places would you recommend if they have like kind of a, shortage of time? Let's say like four nights or 5 nights, not probably 8 nights to cover the entire country. But what are some of the must see places, must see destinations that one must definitely cover?
So when we talk about a 4 night stay and a family, it definitely means the stay is going to be in Reykjavik. So the 4 nights, so it's only 45 minutes from the airport. Probably first and last day is anyway only transfer time. So
Okay.
the Golden Circle is definitely the must-do excursion for a full day. Whether you do it by rental car or by a tour company, that's one thing. Then definitely the Blue Lagoon. The Blue Lagoon is for most people a half-day excursion. So you can use the other half day, for example, for whale watching, puffin watching, or just explore Reykjavik. And then
Mhm.
usually people have one extra full day, which then they might choose either going to South Iceland, especially Indians want to go to South Iceland because of Shah Rukh Khan. So they can see the black beaches, they can see the glaciers and the waterfalls. But other
Right.
people might want to go to West Iceland to go to the man-made ice cave and see
Mhm.
hot springs, waterfalls, and fjord. So I
Okay.
would say that's like kind of whatever. And you might remember the map is a blue circle, so that is all within that blue circle.
Right.
But then, of course, when you have, let's say, teenage kids, probably the program has to be more active. So you can do actually snorkeling, diving, horseback riding, river rafting, glacier hiking, caving. But when you have smaller kids, you probably have to do it much more slower
Right.
and maybe go around whale watching or bathing in a hot spring.
Okay, interesting. Moving on to the next question that we have, it's about the modes of transport. Obviously, when a traveler is booking a package, then it's a entirely different situation altogether. But let's say if a traveler, just for travelers' references, because a lot of people who are watching today's session may be travelers as well. So yes, for the final travelers, what all modes of transportations are available if they want to go around the city, go around the capital city. Are there public transport options available, taxis? What exactly is the situation?
Okay, for Reykjavik, the capital city, your mode of transportation means walking. It's a very walkable city. You really don't need any transportation except you're super lazy and need to drive by taxi everywhere. But there's a lot of one-way streets, and a lot of streets are actually closed for traffic, which is normal in Europe. So probably you're actually faster walking than taking a vehicle. So that's for Reykjavik. The transfer between airport and Reykjavik, there is like a shuttle going like for every single flight into the city or back to the airport, or you can take a private transfer or taxi. Now, when it gets to, but we do have public transportation Reykjavik, but that's more like when you go to the suburbs or a longer distance within the capital city, but the city center is really small and really walkable. But for Iceland, with the country, which is as big as Bihar, that means your transportation is either a rental car, so you do self-drive when you are on your own, or you book a tour and you go on a coach tour or at least a private driven tour. The public transportation in Iceland outside the city is really not good because we are just few people, so basically no one needs it.
Okay. So yes, as Mr. Renato answered, walking is probably the best options available. But yes, obviously there are other options also available if the one wants to, explore, that those options as well. Well, moving forward, before starting, taking up other questions, I would like to announce that the Iceland destination quiz is now live, and the link for the same is already in the live chat. So those of you who wants to win those exciting prizes, please start participating in that quiz. The link is already in the live chat. Please start participating. Those of you who are watching it via TravClan application and website, you'll find a link. You'll find a tab which says "Click here to participate." By clicking that button, you'll be redirected towards the quiz. All the best for the quiz. Moving on to the next question, Mr. Donato. The next question that we have. Okay. Just give me a minute. Right. Homestay options. If a traveler, wants to explore, the culture of the country and wants to probably live with a localite, or some kind of homestay options, are these options available? Apart from hotels, obviously.
Yeah, I guess the travel industry, it's always a tricky thing to talk about Airbnb. Either we hate it or love it. So yeah, Airbnb was definitely available all over Iceland before COVID. They are reducing quite a lot now after COVID, since no one is renting, so people have to find another purpose for their accommodation or apartment. But yeah, Airbnb is available, but Airbnb is really not necessarily you meet the locals. You just stay in a private apartment. You might get someone who gives you a key and they takes the key, but otherwise it's not really the connection to locals. It's more the farm stay. So when you, especially if you do rental car, you can stay in farm accommodations. So there's actually the owner lives there, and there might even be a working farm, but some of them just transform the farm into an accommodation. And there's much more likely that you actually have a local contact. But the farm accommodation is, of course, in the countryside, while the Airbnb is much more in the city. And then we have another option, we call that a cottage. It's very typical in Iceland to rent we call it a summer cottage. That's where people from Reykjavik goes into the countryside over the weekend or during our holidays. So it's kind of a remote cottage in the nature, so you can do your own catering. It probably has a hot tub, but again, it doesn't really mean that you have to contact the local people, because what we want is remoteness. So we want to be alone, have no noise from anyone. But it's a self-catering thing, especially for Indians who want to do their own cooking because they might not find the food in the restaurant they like.
Right. Okay. Okay. Moving on to the next question that we have. The question is coming in from Miss Hetali, and the question is: can you let us know about any ongoing tours currently? You know, uh, considering the coronavirus situation, obviously, uh, is there any domestic tourism happening, like inside the country? And are you like GJ Travels conducting any group tours to Iceland currently? For any other country apart from India?
Iceland never had any lockdown, so it means we actually, Icelandic people were allowed to travel in
Okay.
Iceland during the whole situation. And right now, it's the biggest tourism is within Icelandic people, but we are not so many, so we're not replacing the foreign tourists. But yeah, our country is open since 15th of June again. GJ Travel has now already gotten the fourth group. So it's not a lot because usually we have like more like 30 groups in one day. So now we have 4 groups in 1 month. But yeah, it has started. But of course, group travel is maybe not the most popular on the list right now. So agencies who do self-drive are a little bit more successful. But honestly, there are very few tourists compared to what we used to. So I would say the trend right now is maybe more asking for private tours instead of a seating coach program, sharing a coach with strangers. But when you look for Indian travelers, anyway, it probably will take quite some time until you are allowed to travel and until you are allowed to enter Iceland. But some Indian agencies might have clients living in England. And so, yeah, English people can come to Iceland and they probably either going to do a self-drive now, especially as long summertime, or will eventually join us, maybe even a small group tour. But tours
Okay.
are happening, but compared, of course, to usual times, it's very, very little. So GJ Travel looks much more into 2021 than we have to be realistic. There's not a lot of going happening.
Right. It's almost August. It is August like tomorrow. But yes, let us hope that the entire industry revives as quickly as it possible, because I'm sure a lot of people are dying to travel around the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
At
well,
least you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry for anything is sold out. Nothing is
right,
sold out these days. But it might rather be canceled because too few participants.
right, right. Okay. Can you just give us a brief idea about when it comes to like an 8 days, or probably if someone is has decided that they want to travel to Iceland and want to cover the entire country, no matter how much time does it take, right? And they have that luxury of in terms of time as well as in terms of money. So what is the price point when it comes to covering the entire country, the entire ring at the minimum? So if you could just give us a brief idea about that.
For example, an 8 days round trip of Iceland on the main road, which I have
Mhm.
shown you on pictures, is anywhere from 1,500 euros plus, depending really on the season. And this is now based on a group like of minimum 20 people. But if you want to travel basically every outer circle that we have, and you probably will need 14 days, so just have to make it the double price. So, if you want to be 14 days, probably calculate to 3,000 euros plus.
3,000 euros plus per person, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. I
So
hope.
that's why I say as a package from India,
Mhm.
the flight and then 1 week hotel with all the activities and touring and breakfast and dinner, you need to have a budget of 4,000 euro.
Okay,
Because the
4,000.
flight alone is probably 1,000 euro.
Okay, okay. I guess that answers the question. Moving on to some other questions that we have received. Okay, so if a traveler wants to probably merge Iceland and Greenland together, is that possible? First question, and second, uh, how often does it happen when it comes to Indian travelers?
Okay. To combine Greenland with Iceland is for me only a summer thing.
Okay.
Greenland is really a summer destination. The reason for that, and it's very important to know, the reason for that is there is no local transportation in Greenland except the boat when the ocean is not frozen. There are no roads in Greenland, so you can drive in Greenland. So
Okay.
the only way to move around is the boat when the ocean is not frozen, and that is usually mid-June or mid-September. So that's the time when you combine Iceland with Greenland or go to Greenland, because what's the point to go to a place when you cannot move around? Just stay at the
Right.
airport or the hotel.
Right.
Now, one thing what I say about the Indian market is in generally we get a lot of requests and very few bookings when it gets to Iceland. So
Mhm.
the materialization rate is very little. But when it gets to Greenland, the Indian market stands out with a very high materialization rate.
Right.
Now, the reason for that is very simple. In Greenland, there are few options and you cannot really negotiate the price. I will just tell you 3 days, Greenland costs you out of Iceland 2,500 euros plus. If you
Mhm.
don't have that money, don't even discuss any further. Now, when people say, okay, I do have that money, what do I get? I just tell you, you
Mhm.
get ice, and more ice, and some Inuit culture. If the
Right.
person says, oh yeah, I'm fine with it, make it happen. So if from India we get 5 Greenland requests, we actually sell 3 packages. But if to sell Iceland, I need to get 100 requests to hopefully sell one. So
Okay.
Greenland has a very high materialization rate. The only thing is about Greenland is the Indian market doesn't really promote it because it doesn't really know anything about it. But if you have people you feel they have that money, so a good combination tour of Iceland, Greenland, 14 days is probably
Mhm.
around 5,000 euro. If you
Okay.
feel you have a client with such a budget because he goes to expensive safaris, expensive cruises, goes to Antarctica, yeah, then you should propose it because you will have very little competition selling it. And anyone considering a destination with so much ice, which means it's only going to be Greenland or Antarctica, Greenland is much more accessible than Antarctica. It's much closer for you from India than Antarctica.
Okay.
And it is actually in a certain way more interesting because it actually has people living there. So it's not just ice, it actually has a civilization of people living there. So it's 50,000 people living in Greenland.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to the next question, we have a couple of more questions coming in. So the next question is technically, can we expect the prices to probably change, like downwards, change downwards after the coronavirus situation, once the tourism starts to, reopen properly?
The prices we have received from our suppliers for 2021 seem to be the same ones as we have for 2020. So
Okay.
that is in Icelandic krona. So the prices in our local currencies don't seem to go to increase. But the good news is our currency devaluated so much during COVID that the prices in a foreign currency, now I don't know in Indian rupees, but at least in US dollar or euro, it actually lowers by almost 20%. So
Okay.
Iceland becomes
Okay.
cheaper, but not because of the pricing, but because of the exchange rate.
Okay, okay. Well, that is also a very typical information that one needs to keep in mind. When it comes to travelers traveling all the way from India, probably all the agents are even purchasing the packages in dollars, or not even in rupees, like dollars or euros. So yes, there is a change when it comes to change of up to 20% lesser when it comes to Iceland, specifically because of the devaluation of the currency in Iceland. Well, that also somewhat adds to the benefit when it comes to travel businesses in India. Okay, moving on to the next question. I think this will be the last question because we have covered almost all the questions that we had. This question is from my side to you, that if you just have to list out three things, right? If you have to list out three things about Iceland, what makes it so special? What is your three favorites, top favorites? Just three things. What will be those?
My top thing is always that it's so easy to go to places where I feel I'm the first person ever to be there and I don't have to share my Iceland with anyone else. Now, this can actually be scary for many people. When you come from India and use a lot of people, maybe it is scaring and freaking you out if you're the only person. But then I would say it's all about the volcanoes. So those eerie landscape with this little vegetation is just really amazing. So every time I leave the city, I really have a hard time to go back to the city because that landscape is just doesn't exist anywhere. You know,
Okay.
when I come to India, I have to tell you, every time I see the green plants, the flowers, all the vegetation is amazing. But the contrary of not having it at all is actually also amazing.
Mhm.
And then the waterfalls, it's just, I cannot get enough of waterfalls. There are so many, they look so different. So
Mhm.
that's just really the fantastic thing about the country. But the one thing I do really not like in Iceland is the wind. That's the
Great.
most annoying part of our country.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that is a pretty honest answer. And I loved the first point that you raised, that, it is something very much unique to every person. Basically, the experiences that he or she might, feel, it is something very, very, very subjective and unique. Everyone discovers Iceland in a separate way. I guess that is what you were trying to say, right?
Exactly.
And well, that brings us to the end of today's presentation. Thank you so much, Renato, for the lovely presentation, and I hope the audience also loved it. I loved it personally. I was, even noting down a couple of things for myself, so that I remember some facts. So yes, thank you so much for taking out the time to answer all these questions and for this lovely presentation. Uh, I would just like to quickly announce the winners for today's quiz. As we discussed in the beginning, that yes, we will be conducting the quiz. And okay, I think you see see you in Iceland. Yes, definitely. Let us just quickly go over today's winners who won today's vouchers and answer all the questions correctly. Okay, so the winners are Sushil, Hetal, Sneha, Siddhesh, Delna, Nilesh, Amunkar, Sanket, Usha, Ninad, Gautam, Sameer Dang, Tushar Shah, Ruhi, Anindo Chatterjee, and Sheetal Talreja. Congratulations to all the winners who guessed all the answers correctly and were the first one to do so. And thank you so much for participating in today's webinar. Hope to see you in our upcoming webinars as well. I hope you liked today's webinar, and if you liked it, please do like the video and share it with your other colleagues, with your team, with your friends and family, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much, Renato, for giving us the time, and I hope you enjoyed as much as we did.
Stay safe, everybody, and hopefully we soon have a lot of work again, which makes money for us, not only changing
Definitely.
bookings. All the best to India. Stay safe.